Welcome to the IC Content Studio here at IC 2023. Our topic today is Democratizing Content Production. And our guest is Simon Westland, Channel Marketing Manager from Blackmagic Design. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Simon, content production has changed totally over the past years, and we just talked briefly about it. So what is different 10 years ago to today?
Oh gosh, it's a great opening question. I think that content production has changed enormously, and first and foremost, there's just much more of it. You know, I think that it used to be something that was restricted to only those people with a high budget and with expensive equipment. But actually, when you think that you're now shooting 4K video on a mobile phone, you know, the whole kind of barriers to entry as a content producer have been removed. And I think that, you know, it's not just about cameras, it's about the whole kind of desktop video revolution, where you can now edit. I mean, we've just a couple of months ago released our DaVinci Resolve software, which has got edit and color grading for the iPad. So we've got everybody producing from a mobile phone to an iPad, still through to obviously the higher end digital film cameras. But I think that first and foremost, I think it is a case that the barriers to entry have gone away. And I think that that's good news, because actually they restrict creativity. So the fact that so many more people can get involved in content production, I think that's really important, as well as there's more places for content to go.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, everyone can be a broadcaster now, and the access to YouTube, and you look at the millions of hours of video that are uploaded to YouTube each and every day, and then you come to places like this and you see content for big screens, you see content for Facebook, you see content that's going everywhere. So I think the costs of making that content have come down, and the scope and the places for that content have increased at the same time. So it's just seen this massive stretch of the content production market.
So with these lower entry barriers, where do you see the main use cases, or the most creative use cases where people use your equipment?
Again, that's a great question. We see, and again, ISC is a great show for that, because no two conversations are the same. So we're talking about content production that's going into screens in shopping malls or in cruise ships or in all kinds of retail or soccer stadiums. We see organizations here at the show, corporate organizations, that are becoming their own TV producers. They've actually got television production now as an internal function of their business.
I mean, that's so interesting. I mean, we are sitting in a virtual production studio here,
sure.
And this is not because we are a broadcast organization, we are not from British anyway, but more and more corporates are using that because they want to communicate, and that's what's left over from the pandemic. That they really, you know, they understand that it makes sense. It's not replacing live meetings, but it's like complementing them, right?
Absolutely true. It is, you know, it's complementary, and I think that, you know, so many people now understand that because video can reach far and wide, and it can be used for education purposes or sales purposes, promotional purposes. You know, again, when we talk to people here, we're talking from markets in the medical industries. We had a huge conversation earlier about education in the Italian market we were talking to earlier today. There's so many different people now that understand the value of video and how they can use video within their organization to spread those messages. And it really is. You know, we see it more and more all the time. Every year we come to the show.
Yeah. Simon, I remember when we talked like 2 years ago in the midst of the pandemic, you told me you were surprised that even in digital signage projects, your software and your hardware is used. So even their live content becomes more important, which was unseeable before, right?
I've said a number of times, I think one of the magical things about AV and this as an industry is that it doesn't have the same restrictions that broadcast has. Broadcast has struggled with Ultra HD, with HDR, with all the new technologies that come through, because with their traditional over-the-air, you know, platforms that they're operating with, that's been a real technical challenge for them. AV doesn't have that same constraint. It's not burdened by that same technology. So we talk to people here about 8K and 12K and beyond, and you've only got to see some of the amazing screen technology that's on display on some of the exhibitors' booths here to just see that you know, that all requires content. Wherever there's a screen behind us. There's screens on every booth and around this trade show. There's content on every one of those screens. That content's been produced by someone for this specific purpose. So I think the scale is frankly enormous now.
Let's talk a little bit about the content production process. I mean, it needs more than just a camera and somebody holding that camera, right? So can you explain a little bit what it really takes to create good content?
All good content starts with a good idea. And I think that, often people sort of say, what's the best camera for this job? Well, sometimes the best camera is the one you have in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's the one you have, not necessarily. We shouldn't necessarily be defined by numbers of pixels or the I/O, the inputs and outputs on cameras and codecs and these kind of things. Good content is good content. But I think what people are looking for is tools that make that process easier. So in terms of, let me kind of expand a little bit on that. They want to be able to shoot their content and then edit it easily, whether that's an iPad or increasingly it's a laptop computer. It doesn't need to be this supercomputer that's required to use. Modern day computer processors are very capable of handling HD and Ultra HD and even 12K material. People were amazed. They came to our booth and they saw DaVinci Resolve on iPad, and we were playing back a 12K video file on an iPad. So I think essentially it's about, yes, starts with camera, it starts with the idea, but then it's camera, but it's their workflow as to how they then edit that, how they take that into post-production to combine with graphics, motion graphics or color correction. Increasingly we see within the industry, there's a desire to shoot in raw codecs. People want to have all of the information within the image because that gives them greater creative control over the finished look of a project. So, there's several components in that chain all the way through to the final delivery of where's it going? Is it going up to a big screen? Is it going out to the web? Is it going to broadcast? So, these are all factors in the process.
Some of the cloud is a really big topic. I know also for you, and you had just released a new product range, where it makes easier to combine, local data and everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we've done with our cloud solution with Blackmagic Cloud is quite unique because there's two real parts to it. We can take your DaVinci Resolve project file. So this is your timeline.
Yeah.
If we talk about an edit or something like that, we can take that DaVinci Resolve project file and we host that project file in the Blackmagic Cloud. What we also do that's then pretty cool is that we've then got storage devices. We call them Cloud Store. And the Cloud Store device then allows us to synchronize media locally to the Cloud Store. Still, one of the problems at the moment is accessing large files over the internet, because we all know sometimes your internet connection goes down, it's not as good as you need it to be. So if that media is very large, then that's a problem. So what we do with our Blackmagic Cloud is, one of the first things we do is we can generate proxy files of the high-res media. So if we're working with 8K or 12K, well, that's not practical to work with. So we can have proxy files generated, which allow you to start work quicker. They're much smaller in size. But then, and this is the cool bit, you just relink to the original camera media in your final online edit of the project. So we're moving the media while you're still working. So, I think we've got a really nice cloud-based workflow solution that people seem to like.
I mean, you democratized, hardware and everything, but the huge file sizes is probably still the biggest challenge we're all living with.
That's a modern day challenge because, screens get bigger, there's more pixels, they're bigger file types. So actually, right now, storage is the business you really want to be in right now. Look, storage is the one where you kind of go, well, yeah, we're generating such large file sizes that moving them around and working with them, that's the modern day challenge to work in.
When we look at innovation, and when we take a look into the future, where do you see more innovation in the software part or in the hardware part? Or is it a combination
I
of
think
both?
it will always be both because I think that with obviously with DaVinci Resolve for us, it's a core product within the Blackmagic portfolio. That's a product that's used by millions of folks around the world. So that's a product where the development is continual. We brought out some tools a couple of years ago around AI. It's very interesting where you can literally identify an individual's face within all of the media, and it'll find every clip with that person in shot. And you go, well, that just saves hours of looking through stuff. So there's always going to be evolution technically in the software, as there is with hardware. One of the things that, and again, interested in being here, live production is probably the biggest growth market right now within the technology, TV industries. Live production is huge, so we're seeing tons of new innovation there. We now do switches that start at sort of €300. We do a €300 switcher for people wanting to webcast out to YouTube, and we've got an ATEM Constellation 8K switcher that will do 10 live streams of 8K. So at every point between the sort of YouTube and the 8K live, I think the innovation is constant. It has to be to keep up with the demands of all of the customers that we're dealing with.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah. Well, Simon, our time is running up, so thanks for being here. Thanks for our guest, and we are really looking forward to hear more about democratizing content production. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.